You're on?
Yeah, okay.
You're photographing.
Get a glass of champagne and join me. My name is Couri Hay, and we're in probably the first third of the Charles James story, a 36-part series on America's greatest couturier, one of the world's greatest, in my opinion. Anyway, Charles, it's nice to see you as we continue with the summer show. And it's nice to see that in addition to the clothes that you're continuing to make, you're still drawing.
But
and
you
I
know,
noticed,
curious thing is that I never had a money man. All the people we hear about have people who find money, big sums, millions. Did you see the story about Mary McFarland, or what her name was, losing her money and Mr. Lannon, who looked like a big elephant?
I sure did.
Well,
You couldn't miss it. I mean, actually, I think it's kind of sad, but we're not here to gossip, Charles, about Mary.
The one thing that is important,
But there is no question
to
that
make
Mary...
quite certain, is that fashion is not as expensive to me as people say.
Well,
Tedious, but the enormous deficit made and written off right and left.
I don't think
That's
that...
sort of Watergate.
And certainly Mary McFadden is not going to go out of business because her lover, millionaire boyfriend, Patrick Landon, is no longer writing out the checks. In fact, even though they've separated because of her... Even though they've separated because of her affair with another man whom she met through Mr. Lennon, I think he may even continue to support her interest in the clothing business because she makes money.
Is not that at all. The point is that without such a man, none of this amateur talent could ever produce anything.
But still, I think it's sad that Mary's moved out of the apartment on Park Avenue and is on her own now. Look,
But
there's
I moved
Sputnik.
out of so many apartments. Sputnik, baby doggy.
This is Sputnik, Charles's trusted companion for the last, what, 18 years?
No.
How many?
12.
Sputnik. How did you name Sputnik Sputnik?
Because he never would stay on the floor. He was always in the air.
And he seems to be in fine shape. I know you've been worried about him at some times, but he... Look, he's going pee-pee.
Oh, never mind. I saw Mr. Bard doing it the other day.
In the hall of the hotel? No, Charles, no. Anyway, Charles, the fact is that not only are you still designing clothes, but you're still drawing. And here is a 1978 drawing of Victor Hugo by Charles James.
Let's say it's an impression. It isn't a portrait. It wasn't made with a sitting. I just thought that he'd done very nice things for me. And
Yes, it looks like he could do a lot of nice things.
he'd ordered a wedding dress with Elsa Perez, not that I know that she will wear it.
Who is she going to marry?
But he
What?
thinks she'd marry him.
So, Victor Hugo's going to marry Elsa Peretti?
He thinks so.
Why?
I don't know why.
I thought he was already married to that designer.
Who?
Well, the one that gave him the big, we can't tell everything, can we, Charles? I mean, even if it's
A
uncensored.
woman called
Yes. Hillary.
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 I thought it was a French name.
Was it?
Yeah. Is the real name a French name?
Are they really going to get married, Charles? Is this a scoop?
I don't know.
Are they in love?
They're very fond of each other.
No, I know that.
He's good company. He
Paul
may be
used to tell
bad
me that.
news, but that's another matter. There's room in the world for bad boys. There's room in heaven for them too.
Thank God. Maybe we'll make
It'd
it.
be empty otherwise.
What is this here, Charles? Is this the garment?
That's a drapery that you might wear on the beach.
And I
He
know
has fantasy, one can't deny that.
I really think Victor's amazing. Can you tell me, this is some sort of a little whip with a bow?
Imitation.
And sort of hooked onto his cock with a bell?
Yes.
Why a bell? A ding-a-ling?
Well, I thought l'amour à la sonnette Good idea.
Translated for our American audience, you would say?
Well, timed love.
It's good. Is this a joint or a cigarette or?
Yeah, a cigarette, if you wanted it to be a joint, you would say so.
But
I
it's-
wouldn't.
Have you revived then your interest in drawing erotica? Because that sort of was a period in your life when your father had
Yes.
rejected you and you had done a lot of drawing of erotica. Have you gone back to
I did
erotica?
that for fun. It was very hot here, and he brought some boys here, and we had drinks.
No, this is a family show, Charles.
And then he gave me a fan for the room, because he thought it too hot. And I was very appreciative. That's it. He wanted me to do some drawings for him, which he would buy. So I just started to do one without thought of money.
And he's a good artist. I know he's done all the art, or at least the art on the invitation
I
for
thought
that new magazine, Night, which seems
I
to
thought
be
the
selling out and
invitation
slowly left and right.
Perich's evening was a beautiful invitation, to the point that I wrote so on it. And at the door, I asked for it back, to give it to Anton. And he wouldn't give it me back.
You mean in 54?
Yes,
At least you got in the door, Charles. I mean, you know,
yes.
I always say a little prayer every time I go through.
Anton, I think, gave my name to the man. I think something like that happened. And then I came in right after a big party with Camilla Petri-Brun. McGrath, isn't she? And they got so confused with how many people were in that party.
But you know, I was so mad when I went out of 54 that night after the party for Night. All the copies had gone. They'd taken everything. There wasn't a copy left. And then I went to Rizzoli and I couldn't even buy a copy. They'd sold out. Well, you know, I mean, they ought to really print another issue. Anyway, going on. Isn't this the cake that we saw on Zonda Roads
Yes.
earlier?
Yes.
Is this on Jane
This
4th,
was
isn't it?
made on that big shape, which I told you was necessary for Mrs. Jackson Pollock to produce fullness for a skirt which would hang limply. But we decided to make a stiff covering and treat it as a cape, and then also as a coat.
A coat cake.
Yeah.
And was this Jane
Here
4th?
we have Pierre, who took all the trouble. I
Yes, we do.
introduce
Pierre.
him properly now.
Entrez Pierre, le garçon dans le pantalon. Pantalon. Mon français c'est horrible, excusez-moi.
I made that pair of pants because I got so tired of horizontal waistlines and bulges. And I remember the Rock Hudson, was it film or was it called HUD, with two fingers there. And I thought most blue jeans sag anyway in the end. Why not cut it on purpose?
You mean down the front here?
Yes.
Show us.
So the seam comes up here, goes over here, goes into dots in the pocket. And I got so tired of money getting out of one's pocket, you know, because it's so tight you can't get your hand in, that I just decided to make this very loose and this very tight. And I wanted the back high, you see?
Why did you want the back high?
Because I didn't like that look like that.
And then I noticed you'd come in on the knees a little bit,
Yeah.
and then flared out again
It's
at
an
the bottom.
elliptical seam behind the knees because I don't like all those wrinkles.
Can you show us where the seam is?
It's hidden really. It's in there. But it means that when he walks,
Turn around all the way.
there won't be a whole lot of wrinkles behind the leg.
And I noticed there are cuts on the
Now,
inseam.
if I had a Paris house with 100 people, I would simply make you a pair. I don't. But that's how it's done in Paris.
And were these pants sort of unisex?
If people didn't do that, nothing would ever be fashion. People have to be dressed who look well in things. Some have money, some don't have. It's not important. Somebody backs a house. But the main thing is excellent, something new, something which will surprise without surprising, you know? Nobody will be really surprised, but they won't quite know how the back stays up or the front down, you know? And that's, to me, the essence of fashion, the mystery. And this was designed for a woman. It goes just as well on a man. It shows there are many things that are common denominators in fashion between men and women.
Thank you, Pierre.
They may have their fullness in a different place. Thank you very much.
Don't forget to take them off. Now, was this,
Did you hear that?
back to the fashion show at the Plaza Athénée, Charles, is this the model in the dress that would go by the candle tables with the champagne?
Two capes were hooked together, back and front, and made a skirt.
This here, two capes.
Mrs. Leiter has it still. And O.T. Leiter used to be a great beauty.
This is the two capes that was made for Mrs. Leiter. This one.
No, two capes were made into a skirt. With a very
For
plain
Mrs.
top.
Leiter.
Yes. And Millicent Rogers.
And this here, Charles.
That was made for Mrs. William Randolph Hearst. And one of the people who most urged me to work gave me a lot of ideas. Somebody from Oklahoma called Mrs. Edmund Bradfield. One of the nicest people I ever knew. She rose to every occasion. She gave 20 pieces in her wardrobe to the Art Students League for me to transfer to what museum I want.
Even here, I see this pointed V going down towards the, if I may say so, the crotch. Would this be the pinpoint
What
of...
would that be?
Well, the pinpointing of sexuality being one of the main reasons for making clothes. I don't know. You tell me.
I think that puts it well.
How does sex and clothes relate, Charles?
Well, I'm going to keep that until I can read it well set in writing, you know?
But off the shoulder, off the cuff, before we do that, what is the comparison between sex and clothes? What's the togetherness? They are very together. I mean, sex and clothes. And...
The emphasis of what is the current sexual ideal.
And the way they make tensions on clothes to show the sexiest part, and so you're going...
Yeah.
Is it a skirt and a blouse or a dress?
Yes.
And what's this up here, Charles?
That is a coat from which a dress was made, which Etienne de Beaumont was told lots of people was the smartest dress in Paris. And I made it in velvet for Lady Ross, the Mrs. Armstrong Jones formula. And she lent it to the show, the Electric Circus, the Sunborn by Lord Ross.
That was a wonderful show that Halston at the time produced and starred.
I said he produced it. He didn't produce it.
Well,
He wasn't even there for the rehearsal.
He was very involved in it. It wouldn't have happened without him.
Well, it wouldn't have happened without my giving 4 months to writing to people.
But it's true that Halston has been a big admirer of yours, and after all, they say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Well, he is.
It would be much more newsworthy if I were an admirer of him.
Well, are you?
No,
Why not?
because I don't think he works from within, works from without. He works from the ideas of other people, from old vogues and things. He came into the business through me.
In what way, I mean?
Well,
I thought he
my
came in...
sales manager
What about the hairdresser?
picked him up and took him away from the hairdresser. I never knew the hairdresser. made a terrible scandal for me at the time in Chicago.
When?
My wife was ill after the second child, and they thought, most rather waspish people I would know, thought that maybe I was playing around with horses.
Because of what reason?
Certainly not his shape.
What gave him that idea? What was the scandal?
He gave the idea, I did.
What was the scandal?
I was well known. He was sewing hats in front of the hairdresser's fireplace at night, which was sold in the salon in the day, and to an old lady weighing about 80 pounds, living on gin, who had a few movie houses. And he'd go back from New York every week with some hat that he bought on 36th Street in Covert by the frame, and then get $200. Then my salesman went to Europe and could never come back to the country for years because his credit cards were used up backwards.
Well, scandaloso. The book, don't forget to read the book. Anyway.
But the truth is that these people mainly act that way through envy. They want to have the talent that I have to persist. They don't really persist. And they're much more interested in going out with people they think are well known. Well, they may be well known, but they're not people of much stature. And I never led that sort of life. I went back to the workroom and corrected my fittings. I could have gone out. I come from a family that would certainly have given me entree everywhere. I only went to debutante balls and was finally cut out of the stag list because I made hats. Mrs. Potter Palmer had to go down and put me back in the list. But then I wondered more whether I was sad at going to the parties and I was not being asked.
It's a problem a lot of us have today.
And so many people are dead. 2/3 of the people who formed my life, my career, are no longer here. Somebody mentioned, I mentioned Sissy Patterson, who ran the Daily News out of the money which came from the sale of Liberty magazine. It was put up by the Chicago Tribune. She was Joe Patterson's sister. And they thought I meant Alicia dies. And I had a terrible shock because Alicia died under 50. She married a Guggenheim and started Newsday on Long Island. She was a brilliant person. Her father was a brilliant person and a great traveler. And she went to North Pole with him and all sorts of things like that. As a debutante.
Do you regret having lived all these years on the brink of survival, the brink of being thrown into the street, the brink of not having a place to do your work?
I have had time
money for
in
food,
my life
or taxis,
when that
or
wasn't
doctors.
so.
I know that.
When I had patrons who were really very rich, I didn't need to do that.
Well, are
They
you?
wouldn't have wanted me to.
Would you have ever considered selling out for that big lucrative contract to make those fabulous big ball gowns once a year for
No, because they
Coco,
don't pay.
Moco, Poco?
They don't pay. Nobody wants to make those. They want T-shirts and the sort of thing that Sandra Rhodes wore today. I'd like to dress that woman,
Do you
but
regret?
I would use a strictness in my treatment of looseness. I would have a controlled looseness.
Would you say then you have no regrets then not having sold out to whomever
No.
you might have sold out to?
No.
Had a big house and lots of money and perhaps not the integrity you've sold
I've
out
lived
strong.
in big houses a great part of my life.
It's like Christina Onassis. She got married and she said, I've had enough of luxury I can enjoy the simplicity of life. Do you feel a little bit like that then?
Yes, I do. I only am sorry for the people who work for me. They can't be better rewarded. They may learn something, but they still have to find somebody who will buy it.
Knowledge is often a great reward unto itself. And what's this, Charles?
That was paid for by the Swiss Organdy Group and the top by the Ribbon Syndicate. And it was worn by a woman who was around 55, who had preserved her look, so she looked about 33. And she was the mistress of Jules Bache and also of Churchill.
Winston?
Yeah. When he wasn't enjoying boys.
Winston Churchill enjoyed boys.
I think.
Didn't your grandfather teach him at school?
Yes, I think very sexy people enjoy anything.
Did you have any real knowledge that Churchill liked young
It was
things?
general
Knowledge? Nothing personal, no personal.
Nobody ever said that the Prince of Wales was homosexual, but nevertheless, he was known to hook in a grenadier from the front of St. James's Palace every now and then.
Really?
And then there was a scandal when he went to South America on the boat and was dressed in drag. And the photograph was in the Daily Mirror.
Identified?
Yes, oh yes.
Was he at that time married to
Oh no, he didn't marry for many
Mrs.
years.
Simpson?
No. He was the most beautiful young man I ever remember. I saw him at Ascot when I went with my tutor, who was a clergyman, on his motor bicycle. There were my parents in the Royal Enclosure, horrified at my waving across that way. And the Prince of Wales came by in a barouche, big carriage, with hair golden than corn, and that extraordinary face, which was pleasant, rather beautiful.
Did you know him?
No, I met him. That isn't knowing something.
And of course, here is again the butterfly top, which we've seen adapted in several ways,
Definitely.
drawn by Antonio.
E for boy.
You might make an adaptation for a boy, Charles. It's not impossible.
I could add Steve.
But, you know, some of the things that have been made for women but worn on boys, of course, is again the coat that the Victoria and Albert Museum has, which is here worn by Martin Snoddy.
In a special case.
Here.
Yeah.
And can you tell us about the coat?
It was made by one of my oldest workers, about 80, 82. It's stuffed with eiderdown. It was made in 37 and sold in 38 to Mrs. Oliver Burr Jennings, who was born de Rivas from Ecuador. And she bought my best clothes.
And the back is shaped, it's always a big heart.
Her
I love
sort
the heart.
of clothes would have put Mrs. J.F. Kennedy to shame, because they were very studied.
Would you like to have dressed Mrs. Onassis
If she had the face of a girl,
instead of a...
face of a man.
You know my favorite line, she always used to say, Jackie used to always say when she was Mrs. Kennedy, she used to say, I never want to be called the First Lady. Sounds like a horse.
She looks like one.
Did you think that she was terribly stylish and chic? Do you think that she...
No, I think she wore commonplace clothes, which her sister bought in Paris, and Mr. Oleg Cassini plagiarized and said they were American designs.
Because she wouldn't be able...
They never had fantasy. She was not a woman. She's not a woman of fantasy. She's a hard, hard woman with a bright smile.
But then again, you don't know her personally, do you, Charles?
No, but I judge him by looks. And anyone with that wide smile, which looks like a knife, it helps a little bit. And the hair of the hat check curl. And
Well,
a pretended intellectual culture, which came with being in the White House. I don't think a first lady become a widow, marries money.
but then again, you don't know her, and these are harsh judgments to make, Charles. Do you ever feel that you make judgments on looks or?
Make them on me.
Well, do you feel it's right to make judgments? You know, I mean, those are pretty critical judgments. I mean, perhaps you might be
You
wrong.
asked me what I thought. I answered you truthfully.
I'm just wondering, you know,
But
if you feel secure in making those
have
judgments.
the sort of grace that Millicent Rogers had.
And isn't this gold coat here one of the coats that Zomba Rhodes modeled for us earlier?
Yeah, it was made for Mrs. Legree, Mrs. Rogers. Gypsy Rose Lee traveled with it, used it as a blanket in her Rolls Royce when she slept in the Rolls Royce instead of a motel. When
Why did
she's
she do that?
Well, the big money comes from playing tents. It's 5,000 people. But there's no motel near that you want to stay in, so she preferred to stay in her Rolls Royce and wear my coat as a blanket.
And she had it all equipped with kind of a wide seat to sleep on and champagne. And was it comfortable? I mean,
Yeah, no, she was a very modest person.
didn't she always have a rose in her Rolls Royce in a vase? Didn't she always insist on a fresh rose every
She
day?
could have done that, yes. But
Just-
that wouldn't have anything to do with sequence. A sequence was part of an act. And an act was what the public wanted.
Was she a happy woman throughout all this?
Yes, I think so. She was a very busy woman, and busyness makes for happiness.
Do you find that true in your own case?
It's the only thing that makes one stay alive.
In other words, your work and your busyness at your work, do you feel is your overall major force that keeps you energized?
Yes, of course. But that would be true of anybody who had work and didn't put entertainment before the work. Maybe part of it, but it's not the work.
Do you think that the 70s are falling apart because even the talented people insist on having a good time? Does
Do you
having,
mean like the people at Studio 54 having a good time?
well, you were there the other night. What did you think of Studio 54?
Right, the noise I felt an abomination. I think the old Harlem nightclub was much more exciting. It had pulse in the music, it had persistence, insistence, and it had its rhythm, and it had its lyric, and it had wonderful dancers who did not make a show of themselves by jumping up in the air. I felt the other night that everybody should be given a small flag with a price on it.
Announcing how much their outfit cost?
No,
How much they cost?
yes.
So, what did you think of the clothes that you saw? Would you go back?
I thought there were a great many well-dressed men there. I wondered whether they'd come from coalists or what. But I thought there were very few well-dressed women there.
Well, a lot of people say that the reason that they go to Studio 54 is to see the well-dressed men. And I guess that's a reason a lot of them do go. Anyway, join me and Charles James for the continuing series, Charles James Stories, for lots of anecdotes, observations, clothes, you name it, you'll get it. Thank you.
A
This is our Couri
tango
Hay.
under the stars in Biarritz was more exciting.